What's up, everyone? Welcome to the channel. I am Harrison and you are here for Tutorial Tuesday. What is Tutorial Tuesday? I'm glad you asked. Tutorial Tuesday is every single Tuesday I teach you how to draw some of your favorite characters. Today we are drawing the cutest little Pokemon, Togepi. So go ahead and grab your pencils, sketchbooks, markers, and Pokeballs, and let's jump on into this one. So to draw Togepi, go ahead and start off with an egg shape right in the center of your page. It's totally okay to be very loose and light with your pencils. We are going to be erasing all of these sketch marks that we make later on. Next thing we're going to do is divide our egg shape in half. Now we can start adding some other shapes to help us define Togepi. So at the base, we can add two little round circles. Give Togepi his feet. And then right off, probably about a little bit more than halfway, we're gonna add another couple of circles for his arms. And then I just kind of want to make the base a little bit wider. The base should be wider than the top. Kind of think of it almost like a potato maybe, or an avocado. Now at the top, we can go ahead and add the little spiky horn bits. Make sure you add the one right in the middle, and then the other two can be just off the side. And these don't have to be perfect just yet. We will adjust them all as we go along. And then the last thing we can do before we move on to refining Togepi, we can dash in his eyes and mouth. Right at the top part of this egg shape, we can go ahead and dash in some guidelines. So just right here, that's going to be the eye line, and then beneath that, we're just gonna draw literally like the letter U, and we'll cap that off. And that is Togepi's little mouth. And then for the eyes, we'll just leave in some dashed lines so we know that the eyes are gonna go right there, just like that. Those are our guidelines, and now we can move on to refining. So let's first start with the arms here. We can add some definition. You kind of want it to look like a candy corn, or just like an elongated carrot almost. It should be thicker at the base and thinner at the top, and we want to mirror that on this side as well. And then this part of the body should go a little bit past the horn, and then from there we can define these, and these are going to be rounded. And that will flow into the body. And then from here we can really lock in the body shape. We don't need this to be so loose anymore. And then the last thing we do before we move on from here is we're going to add the shell that Togepi is always stuck in. Right above this arm, we can start our shell. And it doesn't have to be anything perfect. We can just make a whole series of zigzag lines. If you really want to get super detailed and very specific to Togepi, look up some reference, Google image, and then you can copy exactly. Or if you want to have a little bit more fun with it, you can kind of create your own shattered shell and think of your version of Togepi as your very own specific version and not one that you're copying. That's kind of how you can give them a little uniqueness. So right above the arm, we can start with a little bit of shattering. We can make it as big or as small as we want. And then we want it to also mirror the other side, so make sure that you keep along that line. You could also, if you wanted to, draw a guideline, but If you're feeling confident, go ahead and just go for it. And then now for Togepi's feet. So Togepi has 2 toes. So right in the center of this foot shape, we can go ahead and draw that. You don't need to separate them out, but just define that shape and give them a toe. And then the same thing for this side. And there's Togepi's toes. You can give him a little tongue. And if you want to, you could shade in the mouth. And then we can lightly erase the guidelines for the eyes, where we can now drop in his eyes. Draw 2 ovals. Then you're gonna add in the highlights and the pupil. And then he's got like these bags under his eyes, so you don't want to forget those. And then the last thing that really makes up Togepi is all of the fun shapes and designs all over his body. Again, if you want this to be very specific to the version in the anime, go ahead and find an image online and copy that exactly. Or if you want to have your own bit of fun with it, put these shapes wherever you want. But it is just a series of squares and triangles. So we can go ahead and add in one there. Another one there. Small one. That's a bit too close. And you can add as many shapes as you want or leave out as many as you want to. It can be totally up to you. It doesn't have to be very specific at all. But this is Togepi. This is everything that makes up Togepi. He is a very simple character to draw. I find that most all of the Pokemon are very simple to draw, and they're very fun and very fast. And so it's a really quick and easy drawing to do if that's what you want. So to finalize the pencils, I'm gonna go through and just lightly erase everything we just did. I know it sounds very counterintuitive, but because we drew very lightly our first go around with all of our sketching, all of our sketchy lines have now disappeared. So now what we can see is the lines that we committed to, the lines that we cleaned up and added focus to. So we can just go back and just really solidify some of those lines. And this is a great moment in the drawing stage where you can decide if you wanted to change anything, something seems a little off, you can adjust. And this is Togepi. This is everything we need to have an awesome Togepi character. Now, we could simply leave it right here, just like this, if we really wanted to, but I always love to ink my drawings. And so what we're going to do is just go ahead and ink Togepi. I am going to be using a fine liner today. We won't be using the dip pen and brush. I want this drawing to be something very achievable for you all at home, so we can use a fine liner. If you want to use a ballpoint pen, if you want to use a Sharpie, you can. I am using a 0.8 nib fine liner here, and it's going to give us a more thicker outline. And always remember, I really love to do this, and it's starting top to bottom and left to right. You don't want your hand to smudge your fresh ink, so always start in that sequence. Feel free to do whatever you want, but I always like to recommend that way, just in case your ink doesn't set into the paper quick enough and you smudge your drawing. Okay, the final step here is to erase. And I know if you have been a watcher of Tutorial Tuesday since the beginning, you know I say this every time, and I say it every time because I really mean it. And wait 15 to 20 minutes before erasing after you ink, because you don't want your inks to smudge. Depending on the paper that you're using and the inking tool that you're using, it could take a little bit longer, or it could go way faster depending on the tools. Sometimes the paper isn't porous enough, sometimes the pen or the tool disperses too much ink, and you just want that extra time to allow for the ink to set and settle into the paper before you take an eraser to it. Some erasers can be too harsh for your paper, let alone the ink. Sometimes ink doesn't fully set into the paper at all and ink can lift up. So I always like to recommend taking that time to wait, because you don't want anything to get messed up at this final step. So using a kneaded eraser, I recommend going in circles as well, because you don't want your paper to crinkle. So lightly erasing, going in circles. Oh look, we got some smudging. This is the second time on a Tutorial Tuesday that this has happened. And it's honestly a huge bummer, because it just takes away from your drawing. And I'm kind of glad it happened here, just so that you can see in real time what I mean when I say just wait. Take that time, be patient, wait. And even if you do wait, you could still potentially smudge your drawing. We're gonna have to use some whiteout. It's not gonna look awesome, but we'll get the same effect. And now, to finish off Togepi, I'm going to fill in a few of the colors here. So using a blue fine liner, it's a little bit darker than it should be, but I don't have anything lighter on hand. It should be like a really pale blue, but I think you guys will get the idea. I always like to add a little pop of color. Kind of makes the drawing stand out just a little bit more. We can all pretend that's pale blue, right? And then we'll add red to this side. This red is pretty accurate. And then we'll grab the whiteout. I like to use the Presto Jumbo Correction Pen. I feel like it has the best control. I have tried many different whiteout pens and whiteout inks and correction inks, and I have just found that this Presto has the best control. I can use it like a pen and get the right angles and things that I need to for my work. And then there we have it. There's our cute little Togepi. I'm so happy with this drawing. I love Togepi. Aside from Pikachu, I always wanted a Togepi. I thought it was just so cute. It's like one of the OG Pokemon, and it was just the best. Thank you so much for joining me today on another awesome Tutorial Tuesday. I really hope you enjoyed today's lesson. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. And then once you do, hit that bell notification so you know when I upload the next Tutorial Tuesday. And if for some reason you did not enjoy today's lesson, please let me know down in the comments what it is that I can do better to help you achieve the drawings that you want to know how to draw. On that note, if there is a character that you would like to know how to draw and have not seen that character in the playlist yet, please also let me know in the comments who that character is. I would love to add him to the list and get you drawing the characters that you want to draw. If you have been following along on Tutorial Tuesday for the last 4 months, I would love to see the drawings and progress that you are making. please, please, please upload your drawings to social media and tag me in them. You can also follow me on social media and see what I'm doing day to day and see when I'm posting new tips and tutorials. Thank you again for joining me on another awesome week of learning. I hope you are all getting something out of joining me on Tutorial Tuesday. Keep practicing, keep trying, never give up, and I will see you next week. Bye, guys.
Aw, are you hungry too, Togepi?